Welcome to the Crafty Mini, and in this one cool little tutorial found this really awesome bust, so I went out and purchased it. Print quality was absolutely amazing, little to no cleanup at all, and we're going to give it a go and paint it. So Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, really cool character, iconic with that franchise, and yeah, let's just go ahead and get this done. This is a really nice and simple paint job. So starting off, it's all been base coated in German grey, just because you do want a base coat on a resin miniature, just helps the other paint layers adhere to it better. And then obviously painting yellow on top of that's going to be an absolute pain in the backside, so just going to go through now and blot out all of the areas that are going to be yellow in some off-white. I like to use it's a dark warm grey, just because it gives a little bit of extra warmth to the yellow when we put it on top. And just going through now and blocking out all of the colours ready for the next step. Right, so you can see here, so the main part of the armour, which is obviously going to be yellow, the mask and the face, have all had a couple of coats of this dark warm grey. So just put it on thin, don't put really thick paint onto your model, because obviously you think it's going to give you better coverage, but you're just going to lose loads of the detail from whatever it is you're painting. So it's better to do thin coats, let it dry, and do another coat if you need to. Some areas of this, like the mask in particular, it took 3 coats, I think it was. I've just done 2 for the skin because I'm going to have that quite dark anyway, and the tunic itself just 2 coats, and it seemed to go on fine. So I'm using Pro Acryl for this, for pretty much the whole of this project. So this is golden yellow. Now when it first goes on, again, thin coats, this will need a couple of coats to get the really nice opacity. When it first goes on, I was like, oh, this is a bit too bright. But with the future steps that are coming up, you'll see it gets sort of toned down a little bit, and I've done different varnishes to give different effects on the miniature as well, which we'll look at later. But yeah, this very first coat goes on, let it completely dry, and then go in and add another thin coat after that, just to build up a bit more opacity so you can get the yellow to really pop. Right, so at this point everything's completely dry, and I've got some sepia tone from Army Painter, about 2 to 1 with some water, because it's quite a strong wash this is. And then I'm going to put this on all the yellow areas and dull everything down a little bit. Now when you're putting this on, make sure that you're moving it around and it's not pooling anywhere, because especially on a light colour like yellow, you're going to notice it a lot more. And then let that fully dry, and then put another layer on. Now the mask itself I don't put another layer on, but the tunic I do, because I want to differentiate the fabrics that those are on, and just make it apparent that although it's the same colour, it's obviously different materials that are on the actual miniature itself. Now when you come to put a second layer of wash on, make sure your first layer is fully dry. If not, you'll get these horrible tide marks and it'll just wreck your paint job, and you're going to have to go back through and do your base coat and everything. And you can see here I'm moving the wash around where I can. If it pulls too much, I'll just quickly clean off the brush and then go in with that brush and just sort of basically absorb it all back up, because I don't want these big streaks all over it. Right, now this step is definitely the most time consuming and a little bit finicky, but you've got to trust the process with this. So I've got some more of the golden yellow, and I've thinned this down. This is about 2 to 1 paint to water, so it's a lot more. It's more of like a glaze consistency. And I'm going in and I'm feathering this on the mask in the high points, just to start building up that yellow opacity again, because obviously it's been dulled down by the wash, and we've got all the cool sort of recessed shading. And to be honest, the first few layers you're going to put this on and go, that's done nothing. But when it's dried, you'll see that it's just starting to bring that yellow back up, and then with each successive layer we're just painting over less of the area. So I get to the point where I'm pretty much concentrating on just that sort of bridge where his nose is under the mask that goes down the middle of the mouth. That'll get the highest highlight and the most of these passes, and I'll do about 3 or 4 layers. Now for the tunic, same sort of thing, but I'm only going on the highest areas of the actual chest armour and the shoulders, so where the light would hit it the most. And there's these very subtle creases in the fabric, and again using this extremely thin down paint, and that's purely so I can just pick out the highest areas. And because it's extremely thin, I'm not coating though all the detail that's on the actual the chest and shoulder armour, and losing the detail on it. So again, fully dry before I even attempt to do anything else. And the next part is, this is just for the tunic itself, because although it's again that same colour as the mask, but I want to make it so when you look at it, they look like they're different materials. And to get a really nice effect on this, I'm just hitting the highest points with a yellow dry brush. So I'll start off with a couple of passes with the golden yellow just to build up the opacity, and then I add a tiniest of drops of the titanium white from Pro Acryl, mix that in, and then just do the highest points. And it just takes the shine off from the wash first of all, and it gives a bit more of that layered sort of look we want. So it's the highest points are obviously the brighter as it's further up the tunic, and you should be able to see now in the video, hopefully, that you can see it's got like a textural difference between the tunic and the mask, and this is a really simple one. Also, a slight tip with dry brushing: get yourself some makeup brushes. They're brilliant for dry brushing. I've in the past I've had like proper dry brushes and things, and they are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but they get blooming expensive. And I don't know whether it's just me, but they seem to die out quickly. So makeup brushes, you can get these sets from, like, in the UK from Home Bargains, B&M and such, and I think it was £3 and you got 12 brushes. They are brilliant, and they're really nice soft bristles, good for quickly base coating as well if you haven't got an airbrush. But yeah, dry brushing in particular, they are fantastic. You just make sure you give them a good clean afterwards, and they won't let you down. Also, slight aside, after you've cleaned them, the only issue with it being a makeup brush is it does take a bit longer to dry, so just bear that in mind. Right, so this is something that I do in a lot of my paint jobs. I sometimes struggle figuring out how the final thing's going to look, so I'll start blocking in some of the other colours just so I can get a better idea of the final piece. And this one, again, Pro Acryl, so I'm using the light bronze, and I'm just picking out the metallic areas, so all the little buttons on his tunic, this little medallion that's behind this sort of strip of fabric, all the buckles and things. And although this is extremely bright when it goes on, because I know I'm going to darken it down later, but I'm just going to start blocking out these things, and then I'll do things like, I'll go through, when this is done and dry, I'll go around the model and start where obviously with the dry brush you can see where I've caught the collar of his tunic, there's a bit of the white paint on his cowl and things. Just go back with that initial grey base coat that I started with and just clean everything up, just so I can start to get a better idea of how this is going to look, because then I'll start working on the other colours. It's actually a really simple way of doing it. For me, it helps just because I can start seeing a better idea, as I say, the finished product, and just going through and picking out all these details. Right, so same as the previous process, so everything's been sort of cleaned up with the dark grey. I'm now going to go in and work on the leather work on his shoulder pads. So same reasoning as with all the buckles, starting to block out all these colours and just see at the final sort of how it's going to look, and do I need to change anything at this point. So really simple, just going over everything. I'm using it's light umber from Pro Acryl, and this is all of the leather work's going to get this. So he's got his two shoulder pads, the straps that hang down with all the brass sort of pinnings and buckles and things. Right, now that that's all blocked out, I'm now going through, so all of the buckles are going to get a dark sepia wash just to dull them down a little bit. There's also nice little fine details within the actual the little bronze pieces as well, and this will pick all that out for you. And then it will get a final edge highlight at the end with the light bronze. But I'm just keeping this really simple. The core part is going to be his mask and his face. That's where I want the focal point to be, and obviously the yellow. That's the thing that draws your eye to him initially. So all these little details are just getting a very simple wash, just to bring the detail out and leave them at that. Now in the sort of photos and the artwork, he's got this black under tunic. Now because I'm going to keep the cowl this sort of dark greyish colour, I wanted to do something a bit different. So I've got the Procreate Dark Silver, and this is slowly becoming one of my favourite paints. And this is going to go onto that little under tunic. So although it's metallic, it's not bright at all. It's very, very dark. It's like a dark iron sort of thing. And when you put a black wash in, you get all obviously the recessed shading which you want, but it still keeps that little bit of shine. So, and again, so just when you're looking at it, you can see that it's a different material and texture to the other materials like the cloth and the leather shoulder pads and things, and it just gives a bit more variation, and a really simple way of just making it pop but keeping it dark, because I want it to try and match the artwork as best I can. So at this point I'm looking at the sort of final piece, and I'm realising the skin, although I'm going to do a very simple technique on this using a contrast paint, it does need to be brightened a little bit. So I'm just going back in with that light grey, picking out just the highlighted areas, so the bridge of his brow, the nose, a little bit in the eyes, although I'll touch those up later. This is just so when I put that contrast paint on, the variation in the light levels is going to show off a little bit more. Really simple step. There's not much skin on this, so I'm not too fussed, but I want it to look like it's darkened by the cowl, but it's got this sort of burnt, really dark brownish in the recesses that the Scorpion's got, because obviously in the sort of lore and everything, he's residing in this hellfire realm, so you can imagine he's obviously getting burnt all the time and things. Right, so with that Dracoff contrast paint for the skin, really simple, just get this put on. I tend to do very thin coats with this, a couple of them with the contrast paints, because it can pull quite a lot, and then you've got to quickly wick it away, because if it starts to dry, you get a big blob of paint and your miniature starts to lose some of its detail. So I'll get this put on over a couple of coats, let it fully dry in between, and just build up that opacity a little bit. And once that's done, it's a case of going back in with some of that dark warm grey on the eyes, and then in the very centre some bold titanium white. And here he is. Really simple paint job, and it looks effective. It's what I want. Okay, the flesh, because it is just a contrast paint, sometimes I think, well, should I have done more? But I'll be honest, I'm really happy with how this has finished up. This looks cool. It's got a lot of bag of character. He looks like he's scowling. It's Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, and that's exactly what I want. Right, so a bit of a fess up now. So this wasn't the planned video for today. I've had to push some stuff back a couple of weeks, but that's because I've had a subscriber to the channel message me and basically said that I've inspired their son to start miniature painting on his own little YouTube channel that he's got. I've gone and watched some of his videos and I've commented, and it's honestly, mate, your work's really, really good. It's like it's a lot neater than I was at that age. So keep with it. You're doing some good work, and just enjoy it. Don't ever get frustrated by this. Make sure you have fun with it. Also, you're not aware, but go and turn to your mum and dad now and ask them where the package is from the Crafty Mini. This bust is for you, and there's some extra little bits in there for you to have some fun with. Keep going with the hobby and enjoy it, and I'm glad I've helped you get into this hobby itself. Maybe not so much for mum and dad's wallets, but you know, if you got any questions or anything, like everyone else who watches the channel, just whack it up in the comments. I will always answer them. If anywhere I can share any knowledge or any information, any tips and tricks, I will. But thank you all very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope the present's gone down well, and I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers.